Sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, teach our children to stop the fighting, start uniting, live as one. Let's get together, loving forever, a sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Take a deep, conscious breath. Breathe into this moment, this space. As you exhale, let your body relax completely. Be aware of the muscles in your face, in your head, shoulders and neck, your back. Just let them go. Let them know it's okay. You're safe. Relax your thighs. If you're willing, put your feet flat on the floor. Sense the soles of your feet, feeling the energy of the earth. If you want to place your palms, your hands on your thighs with your palms up in an attitude of openness and receptivity. Perhaps you can sense the vibration in your palms, the life, the divine life that flows even into the very ends of our extremities. Just let that divine life vibrate through you, through every circulatory system you have. Be aware of your breath circulating in as you take it in and out as you exhale. And your blood circulatory system moving freely, joyously through every part of your being. Your nervous system relaxed and operating fully and healthfully. Recognizing that it is this body, this physical being, embodying this sanctuary that we choose to be. Certainly, we are so much more than this physical being. We are not limited to the epidermis, which encloses the physical parts of us. We sense that energy in and through us and connect it with all of the energy in this room, in our awareness of our oneness with all that is. Now, with another deep and conscious breath, breathing deeply into that place in you where you know you are one with the One. Resting in that space. Remembering who you are. Remembering with love and gentleness and humor. This is the truth of my being. This is who I am. One with all that is. And it is in that awareness that I am confident and comfortable and able to rest and be at peace, knowing that indeed all is well. And I am willing to be available, to be a sanctuary, so that anyone who cares to can step into that space for their own peace, their own healing, their own awareness of love and worth and being. And I am willing to claim and affirm that I am one with all that is. That I am divine energy. That I am an expression of the divine on this planet. And I step gladly into the willingness to be that every moment of every day that I possibly can. I am divine energy. I create a space of sanctuary every moment that I can. Breathe in that affirmation. Let us rest in that awareness if you're willing, or whatever it is that Spirit guides you to do. For a few moments in the silence, I am one with all that is. I am divine energy. I rest in and create sanctuary every moment of every day. And for that I am grateful. In the silence. Take a conscious breath deep into your being. Breathe into your own heart. Be aware of this time and this space, this place, this sanctuary. I invite you with your eyes closed still. Simply let your energy shift to the person beside you. And just quietly, gently with your thoughts, send them loving kindness and appreciation. And let it shift to the person on the other side of you and send them thoughts of loving kindness and appreciation. Bring that back into yourself, knowing that you've been blessed on both sides of you too. As you let the light filter into your eyes and you get ready to open them, let us say thank you, God. Thank you for this awareness. I am one with all that is. Amen.
Not for you, I couldn't even find the door. I couldn't even see the floor. I'd be sad and blue if not for you.
If not for you.
If not for you,
If not for you.
the night would see me wide awake. The day would surely have to break. It would not be new if not for you.
If not for you.
If not for you.
If not for you.
If not for you, my sky would fall. Rain would gather too. Without your love, I'd be nowhere at all. I'd be lost. If not for you. If not for you.
If not for you.
The winter would hold no spring. I wouldn't hear a robin sing. I wouldn't have a clue. If not for you.
If not for you.
Not for you.
If not for you.
If not for you, my sky would fall. Rain would gather too. Without your love, I'd be nowhere at all. I'd be lost. Oh, if not for you. If not for you.
If not for you.
The winter would hold no spring. I couldn't hear a robin sing. I wouldn't have a clue. If not for you.
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 If not for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to, again, acknowledge and thank the board and the staff and all of the leaders who have worked so hard during this transition. I know what that takes, and I know you sitting in the pew probably can't possibly really appreciate that. But the work that is required of Leslie and the board and the staff and people who are here moving things around and taking care of stuff, I really, really appreciate that, and I want to acknowledge you. And I hope that you are doing that. When I was here to do my talk on why we need transition, one of the things I told you your job was, if you remember, do you remember what I told you your job was? Your job is, let me see if I can remember this accurately, your job was to say to them, thank you for all you're doing. I'm keeping you in my thoughts and in my prayers. What else can I do to support you? Had you forgotten that already? What else? I thank you for all the work that you're doing. You're in my thoughts and in my prayers. What else can I do to support you? So just remember that as a congregant, that's part of your job in this transition, as well as attending the workshops and the other things that we're arranging for you to support you in moving through this time so that you're really open and ready to receive a new minister. So yesterday we had this wonderful workshop called Healing Our Past and Creating Our Future, and I was just very, very pleased and impressed that you had nearly, I think about 50% of those of you who are attending come pretty close to that, come to the workshop yesterday. And as far as I can remember, that's a record. You know, we really work hard and hope and pray that a church will have at least 25% of their attendance at one of those workshops. And for you to have that many was remarkable, and I'm really, really grateful that you made the effort that you did and came, and it turned out to be a wonderful day, and we learned a lot of things. And in the beginning of the workshop, someone said something, and I don't mean to embarrass you, so please don't be, because almost every place I go, somebody does that. Somebody says, well, we don't have any conflict. I just don't feel any conflict here at all. And it's true that the people who say that, they do not. And in fact, as we moved through the day, what we realized is that there are always some things in an organization of this size on which not everyone will agree. Then one of the slides I have in that presentation is where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there is an opportunity for conflict. And that's always true in an organization, particularly when it needs to evolve and change and move into a different way of being and state of being. And so we discovered that there are some areas that the board is working on and needs to be aware of, and that the congregation needs to come together to support. And one of those areas is finances. And I didn't intend to say this, but I'm going to. In fact, I was going to ask if I could do the offering. And I saw somebody else had been asked to do that. So here's what I want you to know. If there is not an increase in finances, the board will have to start cutting staff. You're way short of giving the amount of money that needs to be received in order to support this spiritual community in its mission in the world. And so I'm going to suggest to you, first of all, I want you to take it into prayer and think about the value that being able to come here and be with people of like mind and be reminded of who you are and be empowered to be the best expression of divine being that you can be. What does that do to your life? And how does that compare really to the other ways that you spend your money? Yes, of course you need to go to the movies once in a while, and as a family go out to dinner once in a while. Of course you need to do those things. But is that as much value as what you receive when you gather here in this synergy? And so I'm going to ask for you to consider whatever you're giving now. If you can give an additional 10% of that amount, that way you only just have to move the dot over 1 0. If you can give an additional 10% of what you're giving now over the next month, just the next month, just try that and see how that feels. Giving and receiving is the same hand. When we give it away, then our hands are open to receive. So I'm just asking you to consider that, to take that into prayer, and let the Spirit in you guide and direct you as to what is yours to do. If you can do that, you will be blessed, I promise you. So I didn't even ask for permission to say that. So, you know, there it is. So what I want to talk about is that, you know, we came up with, you know, yesterday part of what we were dealing with was getting out into the open. Anything that might be standing in the way in terms of our being able to move to another place. Because, in fact, all of us have, I'm not on, or something said, oh, well, it's my fault. All of us have some degree of baggage, and I'm just not, okay, there we go. Anybody recognize this? Does this sound familiar? I'll get yours if you'll carry your mother's. All of us have some baggage, and all of us from time to time are likely to get triggered and you know, get reminded of things that we haven't healed in the past, and so things begin to build up in us, and we come to a place where we realize we need to get involved in forgiveness. Now I want to tell you that I came to develop these ideas because so many people would come to me in my ministry and would say to me, you know, this happened to me, or this is something that has gone on in my life, and I really want to forgive, but I'm afraid to do that because I'm afraid something will happen, or this, you know, this, that, or the other will happen. They wanted to forgive, but they didn't know what might happen if they did. So I began to develop these ideas just in the context of talking with them about it. And then I owe a great debt to David Owen Ritz, who wrote a prosperity course called Keys to the Kingdom. And in Keys to the Kingdom, he identified it as what forgiveness is not. It was the first time I had seen that articulated. And it sparked an interest in me, and he had some ideas on that, and I've expanded on those quite a bit. And so this seemed like a necessary teaching that we really haven't been doing. So I wanted to talk about that today, what forgiveness is not. And first of all, forgiveness is the act of admitting that we're just like other people. All of us want the same things. We want peace, joy, abundance, love, you know, creative expression, all of those kinds of things. Abundance, we want those. All of us want those kinds of things. And all of us will make mistakes whenever we feel lack around any of those. And so we're really just like everybody else, even the people that seem to, quote, do things to us. And remember that wonderful phrase in Eye of the Storm? How many of you went through the Eye of the Storm classes? Yeah, that wonderful phrase. Whatever anybody does to us, and they do, people do things to us, things happen to us, you know, things outside of our control, they happen to us. But when anybody does anything to us, it is also for us if we are willing to experience it and see it as in that way. So forgiveness is the act of admitting that we were just like other people. And expectations of others are resentments under construction, particularly if they are unspoken. Now, if we have an agreement with somebody that they're going to do this and they're going to do that, quid pro quo agreements, and they break them, then we have, you know, we have an opportunity to feel disappointed, of course, and we can stop that. But we also, you know, have an opportunity to call ourselves and the other person into accountability about that broken agreement. That's appropriate in relationships. But unspoken expectations are resentments under construction, and when we feel a resentment arising within us, we might want to take a look at what has been my expectation, and was it realistic, and did I ever speak it? Did I ever say, well, you know, I was expecting this? Expectations are resentments under, or can be resentments under construction. So what are the two things that we cannot change? What are the two things we can't change? Pardon? The other people. What else? The past. We cannot change the past. And a lot of what comes up within us are attempts, really, to try to change or control other people. Anybody know that besides me? And a desire to change. Oh, if only that hadn't happened. Oh, God, I wish that, desire to change the past. We cannot do it. Those things can't be changed. We have to stay focused on the future. So the two things we can change, Nelson Mandela said, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill the other person. Drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. You probably heard that before, but it is so absolutely true. So true. He also said that as he walked out of the door toward the gate that would lead him to his freedom, he realized that if he didn't forgive those people, if he lived in bitterness and hatred for them, all of that, then he would continue to be imprisoned. And so he let it all go and became one of those marvelous leaders of a whole new political system that was really transformative, at least at that time. There have been some changes since then. So I began to think about resentment, and what is resentment, and how do I know I have a resentment? And one day in meditation, this came up for me, and it's like re-sentiment. Just change the words around just a little bit. Re-sentiment. That means to me, remembering with feeling, remembering with sentiment. So if something has happened and every time I think about it, I get engaged in all the feelings and the upset and all the things I wanted to do about it, when I'm remembering it, I'm in resentment about that. And that's a clue for me that I have some forgiveness work to do, sometimes with myself as well as another person. So resentment, I can see it as re-sentiment, remembering with feeling and with sentiment. So what is the most common thing that you've heard growing up about forgiveness? Forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. I want you to know that forgiveness, well, I don't know how that happened. Forgiveness is not necessarily about forgetting. It is about forgiving every time we remember. So every time we remember, and particularly if we're feeling that energy around it, then we need to forgive again, or do our forgiveness practice again. In fact, sometimes there are some things that have happened to us that we need to remember, and we will always remember. This is a fact of my life. There are some facts in my life, I'm never going to forget them. They'll always be there, but the energy and anger and bitterness and resentment around those have long gone. And sometimes something will happen and we'll forgive it, and the memory will fade till somebody reminds you of it or something of that sort. But forgiveness is not necessarily about forgetting. It is about forgiving every time we remember. And forgiveness is not about denying what happened. As a matter of fact, I believe that denial is hardly ever helpful. There are some times when we're in shock and that sort of thing, and we're in a bit of denial, and it supports us in being able to move forward in the tasks that we need to complete. But denial, other than that, is hardly ever helpful. Pretending that something has not happened or a situation is different than it is hardly ever helpful. It's not helpful to pretend you're in one place when in fact you're in another. If you're in New Braunfels and you want to go to San Antonio, it's not helpful to pretend you're in Houston, is it? The map will not get you there. So it is important to not be in denial. Denial has the power of creating the illusion of non-existence, that nothing happened. But at the same time, it absolutely steals the life from us. It pilfers the breath from within us, from our soul and our being. So forgiveness is not about denial. Forgiveness also is not about excuses. We cannot excuse ourselves, the others, or the action taken. Again, it's important to recognize that those things were done. And there's no real excuse for that. So it is not about excusing those things. And forgiveness does not stop the wheels of justice from rolling. If you or somebody in your life has put themselves crosswise with civil or criminal authorities, then very possibly you just will experience, and they will experience the consequences of that behavior. So it's not about excusing the behavior, preventing the behavior, our forgiveness. If something really traumatic and awful was done to us, as sometimes happened, there was a family in my church whose daughter was raped and murdered, and someone was caught and accused of that. And their stance from the beginning was, you know, we absolutely want to be in forgiveness about this, but we're not there yet. And, you know, we want to make certain that the right person, we don't know if it was him. We won't know for sure that it was him until a jury says so. And we want justice in this situation. So it's not about him necessarily that, you know, this process is moving on. It's about finding absolute justice, and if this person has not done it, then we want him released and the right person caught. So they were very clear about that, and then they began to practice forgiveness. Now, I tell you, it took them a while. And as you can well imagine, in a situation like that, where the legal system is involved, and the trial went on for a couple of years, and almost, you know, they did great and wonderful work, and I mean, it was painful. Of course it was painful. And by the time the trial came around, actually by the time the sentencing phase came around, they were able to stand at that sentencing phase and say, we absolutely forgive that this happened. We forgive you that this happened. And we trust that when whatever the sentence that is passed for you, they didn't believe in the death penalty. I think they said that, although I don't think that was at issue at the time. But, you know, whatever the sentence is, you know, we agree to that, and we trust that during that time, you will be able to have the kinds of support and help that will support you in being a whole person, so that if you come out of prison again, you can live a happy, healthy life. That's true forgiveness. Wasn't easy for them to get there, but they did because they wanted peace within themselves. They wanted to know that peace. And forgiveness is not dependent on the other party's ability to receive your forgiveness. As a matter of fact, unless they know for sure, you know, unless they've asked for your forgiveness or you've talked about the fact that this has been committed, sometimes in families especially, it'll be in conversation for a while. When we have forgiven them, it is really important, I think, to do that. But there was a wonderful story in the service this morning, and I wouldn't normally do this without asking the person if I could share it, but I don't know her name anyway. But she talked about a personal situation and how important it was for her to apologize because she had done something. Now, it was clear as she told the story that the other person had done something also that may have exacerbated the situation so that she behaved in the way she did, but she didn't even bring that up. She took responsibility for her own behavior and apologized for reacting in the way that she did. That's true forgiveness. That's absolutely true forgiveness. And it's not dependent on the other people saying, oh, I understand, it's all right, you know, everything's fine. Because here's the deal, folks. Sometimes we do things, and sometimes other people do things, and it's not all right. And I don't see how it's helpful to say that if, in fact, it's not. Now, if it doesn't faze you one way or the other, and they go, oh, I'm so sorry for being late or whatever, and it's fine, okay, that's fine. But if it's something and it isn't fine, then it is appropriate to say, thank you, I accept your apology. You do not have to say, oh, it's all right. If you can say, you know, I forgave you for that long ago, or I forgive you for that. Don't worry about that. I forgive you, and thank you, I accept your apology. But being truthful, being honest here is really important for our own process of understanding. Okay. And forgiveness is not necessarily about reconciliation. And this was the biggest one that alerted me to the fact that some people felt it might be dangerous to forgive. Because especially in situations where they had been abused, and it was perhaps a family member or someone, and they knew that they could not be safe around them, or they couldn't trust that they could be safe around. Reconciliation was not a good idea. It wasn't wise. They could not do that and remain safe. So forgiveness is not necessarily about reconciliation. However, it can happen. And when it does, it can be a wonderful blessing and a wonderful healing for both parties. In the end, as Mother Teresa said, it is always between ourselves and God, not between us and them. Not between us and them. And tell others that we have forgiven them only if they ask. Generally speaking, there can certainly be exceptions to that, but only if asked do we tell them. But so here's the good news. Reconciliation with ourselves and with Spirit can always be complete. Always be complete. And we learn to love ourselves just the way we are, just as we are. How important it is for us to love ourselves and practice loving ourselves. Jesus said we can only love ourselves to the extent that we can love others. Love your neighbor as yourself, implied. You got to love yourself if you're going to love somebody else. You can only have compassion for others to the extent that you have compassion for yourself. So we have to apply it here first and practice it here first so that we can then give it away. Yeah? I love all that I am just as I am. Let's affirm that together. I love all that I am just as I am. And this, then the Spirit within us creates, I believe this, an unrelenting desire toward forgiveness and reconciliation. Believe all of this stuff and upset and churn is exactly that. It is the Spirit creating an unrelenting desire toward forgiveness and reconciliation. The whole New Testament reveals the unfolding mystery of forgiveness as a component of love. And love is the beginning, the middle, and the end of Jesus' very, very transformative message. And so the energy of forgiveness, knowing we are worthy of it, first of all, loving who we are, loving others, breaks us out of this keeping track kind of tit-for-tat, merit badge sort of mentality. You know, we can just let it go and be at peace. The ongoing experience of forgiving ourselves and others renews our spirit and keeps us in this wonderful space, the infinite ocean of ease and grace. Is that a place where you'd like to set sail? The infinite ocean of ease and grace. And finally, when we experience a universal of accepting everything for what it is in the moment, then it is the only way we see and understand the reality around us. And we are at peace, and forgiveness never becomes necessary. Forgiveness only becomes necessary because we've reacted to what has happened within us, with our own stuff. So what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is a decision and a practice so that we perceive the situation differently. It's a decision and a practice so that we perceive the situation differently. We're willing to say, yes, I absolutely want to forgive and I'm willing to forgive. And sometimes we have to, and we also can acknowledge, it is the Holy Spirit in me that does the work. That's the best part. We of ourselves can hardly ever do it. It is the Holy Spirit within me that does the work. The Holy Spirit in me can and will forgive. And so this is the practice that I learned around that sometimes I would sit down and there would be a situation, I would be in prayer about that. I would go, okay, I forgive. No, I don't. Okay, well, I'm willing to forgive. Well, not right this minute. Okay, I'm willing to be willing to forgive. Not in the near future. Okay, I'm willing to be willing to forgive. Yeah, because I do want to forgive. And right this moment, I forgive and I recognize that's not complete. But I am willing to forgive and I'm willing to keep at it until it happens. So I am willing to be willing Help me, Spirit, to move into complete willingness to forgive and let go. My need to control other people and have them do what I want them to do. Me be willing to accept them for who they are, just as they are, the best expression of divine spirit that they can be in the moment. Forgiveness is a decision and a practice that causes us to perceive a situation in a whole new light. It's not about changing the past. It's about changing our story about the past and having a more complete story rather than the little piece of it that we make up to justify our behavior. So I have a couple of, well, I don't know how to get that back. I went too fast there, Pat. Can you bring that back so that I can show them those? You have there is around a half sheet of paper that talks about some of the ideas that I've talked about here. And it's okay. They've got it on the sheet of paper. And it references Byron Katie and also Tom, what's his last name? Tom Collins in Radical Forgiveness. And so there are websites. There are websites at the bottom of that page. Or references to David Owen Ritz, too. And references, you can go online. You can download worksheets so that you can identify more clearly where it is that you are stuck, remembering that nothing and no one stands between us and our highest good unless we're willing to let it. That great line from Eye of the Storm. My favorite line from that is that line about, you know, unless you were Jesus, you probably did not grow up knowing that you were the Christ. And you are. You absolutely are. You are the best expression of divine being you can be right now on this planet. So these are some things that can help you do that. And love yourself through the process and acknowledge yourself through the process. Sometimes I'm in bed at night and I'm going, oh, I just can't believe I did that today. And I have to go, okay, I love you, Martha Lynn. That's what my mother called me. I love you, Martha Lynn. I love you for noticing. You noticed. And now you know what you missed today. And tomorrow you can do something about that. Bless you, sweetheart. Yeah, you made a mistake, but you noticed. And now you can correct it. Love yourself. You are absolutely worthy and deserving. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what's been said to you. I don't care what your thoughts are. That is not who you are. Your feelings and your emotions do not define you. You are men and women of God. I see you in that light. I see you stepping into being the best expression of divine being that you can be. God bless you.